So, what forms of addiction treatment am I most drawn to? Well, although I agree that the model of AA definitely needs to change, needs to kind of get with the times, so to speak, um, I still very much am drawn to their model um, because I believe personally that most of our issues, individually and collectively, stem from a spiritual matter. So I think that having a strong spiritual belief system, um, or faith system, or whatever, um, is at the root what we need to figure out about ourselves. Um, as I mentioned in my previous videos, that I've had, issues with these topics, and with AA, you don't have to. It's not a Christian-based organization. It's more of a faith-based organization. So I've been to two different types of Christian models of AA. They don't call it AA. Celebrate Recovery is one of them. I can't remember the other one that I tried. Um, and I also realized that a lot of people have a hard time on the spiritual aspect of things. I still do myself, and that's why I couldn't necessarily get on board with the Christianized model of AA. Not that I'm against Christianity. I do not consider myself a Christian, but I do consider myself a follower of Christ. And with the concept of the Celebrate Recovery and other um, uh, models of AA that's more Christianized, I just can't really get on board with the way they do things. I think there's more that goes involved in it. Now, granted, when I say that there are a spiritual component to addiction, um, there's also a secular component and a psychological component that we need to look into. So it is a holistic view of things that we need to look at: the body, mind, and the spirit. Um, not just with the spirit. And I think that AA and other forums focus too much on that, possibly. Um, I am also a huge proponent for harm reduction techniques, um, because as we've mentioned before, that we humans have been using substances for as long as it's been recorded history, right? I mean, it's just human behavior. It really truly is. Is it a disease? It could turn into one, I think, but I think it's just human behavior. We've always tried to change our conscious state somehow, and I don't think that's a moral. It's not a moral issue for me. It really isn't. Um, is it needed? No, I don't think it's needed, but it's just a thing we do, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. Um, it's sad. It is sad. I've done a lot of self-reflection and a lot of studying around these topics, and I used to work at a bar for a little over a year, and just seeing. I think people, especially when it comes to like bar settings and like going out and stuff, people who are having the troubles with substances there, is that we're social creatures. We want to be social. We want to have a sense of community and friendship, and a sense of belonging with other people. But yet, so many of us are so anxious, socially anxious, we don't know how to do it. So having a social lubricant there, is helpful. Um, so I've tried to do the complete sober thing with no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. And I think that we set ourselves up for failure trying that. Not saying that everybody fails at trying that, but I think it's a slow approach. Say if you drink in 5 nights a week, cut it down to three. Or if you're smoking, you know, an eighth of marijuana, every few days, cut it down to a third or something, or a couple grams or something, and cutting it back slowly. I believe in that that is a good way to kind of at least again reduce the harm that you're doing to yourself and your body and mind. And that's difficult because you know, in rehab centers, you know, it's total abstinence from everything, and that's great. In that setting, we can do that. In a setting like rehab, where we're in a controlled, scheduled setting, and our entire lives revolve around the fact of okay, we're being sober here. That's great, but when you look at the recidivism rates or whatever it's called, whenever the relapse rates, they come out back into the real world, and a lot of it doesn't hold. I mean, because this world is just it's awful, you know. So at least finding some ways to reduce your harm is a good one. And you know, I don't I think that sometimes even medicines can help. I've known a lot of people who's gotten off of heroin and meth and stuff, but are now addicted to Subutex and Suboxone. And I guess it's a little bit better because it's legal. Um, but they're just as messed up as they was before. And one thing that I have come to terms with is, you know, I see a lot of people counting their days and years and months in their sobriety, and I that's great. I commend that. I did that for a little while, and then I was reading one of my favorite psychological spiritual teachers, um, and he was talking about addictions and stuff. You know, he said as long as you're still wrapped up in that, you're counting, you're pushing something away, then you're not free from it. So I've been sober from from alcohol for 8 months, 4 days, 16 hours, and 35 minutes. Well, my mind is still just as much wrapped up in that as it was before. You know, I may not die from cirrhosis of the liver, but I may die of uptightness, you know. So, like, I don't personally count my time. I wanted to be, whenever I decided that I'm done with it, I decided I wanted to be free from it, and not necessarily alcohol or substance free. Now, I am mostly substance free. I don't deal with I don't that doesn't bother me. Alcohol is my biggest issue. Um, I don't count my times and stuff, and because again, I felt like if I'm pushing it away, then I am no longer free from it. It's still got me. So you know, I'm very well on my road. Not everybody can do that, but those are the kinds of things that comes to me naturally in the terms of addiction.